Did you know that there are many infrastructural projects constructed around the world for millions of dollars that remain unpopulated and forgotten today? There was an entire capital city built for a huge population but turned out to be virtually empty. A $1.3 billion airport was constructed in Europe, but passengers barely even flocked to embark on a flight. And even the United States squandered over $16 billion into a megaproject that, to this day, remains completely useless and has still never been used. In this video, we will look at the 5 of the world's most irrelevant and useless megaprojects. Only here on Modern Luxury, the high-end stories of today. Before we begin, do you have any clues to which projects we're referring to? Leave us a comment below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and be updated of today's most trending lavish stories. Number 5 on the list. Interstate H3, located in the Aloha State, Hawaii. The Interstate H3 scenic roadway, which is 26 kilometers long, runs through one of the world's most beautiful landscapes. There were real concerns that cars would stop and cause traffic hazards because of its scenery. The expressway, which would connect the Pearl Harbor Naval Base on the south side to the Marine Corps Air Station on the east coast, was first suggested in 1960 with defensive considerations. The project's introduction was received with rapid opposition from environmental groups as well as from the natives who were concerned about this huge urbanization project. However, the plans were delayed for almost 37 years, caused by a change of route to protect neighboring valleys, and by the environmental laws during the time of proposal. It was only in 1997 that the highway had finally opened. Because of the rough terrain it was built on, and the modern technologies used in its construction, Interstate H3 is frequently referred to as an engineering wonder. The highway almost entirely runs on overpasses to safeguard the ecosystem in the valleys below, in addition to the numerous high-tech tunnels. It was built 5 times over the original estimated expenses due to decades of delays, route revisions, and newer but more costly advancements. The overall cost of construction was $1.3 billion, or roughly $50 million per kilometer, making it the world's most overpriced cost per kilometer. Despite its massive expense, this attractive motorway isn't really for everyone. Critics say it's a road to nowhere because the defensive issues aren't truly handled properly. Then there's the issue of the native Hawaiians who refused to use the H3 even up to this day. Many religiously significant cultural sites were destroyed during its construction. That's why it's considered as cursed. In terms of megaprojects, the Interstate H3 highway is unquestionably a great success. Nonetheless, for some indigenous communities, it remains useless. At the very least, unlike the next project on our list, it hasn't been fully abandoned yet. 4th on the list. Ciudad Real Central Airport, Spain. When the idea for Ciudad Real Central Airport was conceived, it was important to keep in mind that Spain is one of Europe's most popular vacation destinations. It was predicted to be a popular holiday resort for both domestic and international tourists. The goal of the second airport was to become an alternative to Madrid's overcrowded main airport. The new airport featured one of Europe's top 5 longest runways, with a capacity of 2 million passengers per year. When compared to Madrid's 17 million passenger capacity, this is only a small number. However, plans were already in the works to increase the capacity to 10 million people each year. As a result, the $1.3 billion cost may have looked justified when it was ultimately operational in 2009. All of these ambitions, however, came to a close in 2012 when the project's parent corporation filed for bankruptcy. The issues began with the program site. Despite its name, the central airport wasn't really found in a central location. This intensified the issues because most passengers chose not to travel for hours to reach the distant site, and most major airlines preferred to operate flights from the metropolis. As a result, the newly constructed airport was reduced to a single small-time airline within the first year of operation. By 2012, the airport had acquired a $350 million debt due to the lack of big airlines to attract customers. It went into foreclosure and was placed up for auction in 2013. In 2014, the iconic British TV show Top Gear exposed the airport as an abandoned area. The airport was finally sold to new owners in 2019 after many auctions passed, including an outlandish $12,000 offer. During the COVID-19 outbreak, when businesses were collapsing and income was dwindling, the Ciudad Real Airport was given a lifeline. Given the dry environment, large runway, and emptiness of the airport, the new owners repurposed it as a haven for parked planes with little possibility of passengers returning. By August 2020, there would be 65 planes parked at the airport, with additions planned to accommodate over 300 planes. This new storage method provided the airport with a much-needed revenue stream. However, once the pandemic has ended, all of the planes will be gone and the restoration to normal flying operations is still a long way off. For passengers all across the world, this multi-billion-dollar megaproject is basically useless. Before we move on to the next part, have any of you ever come across these megaprojects before? We'd really love to know your thoughts and experiences by leaving us a comment down below. Now, back to the video. Top 3 of the world's most useless megaproject is Naypyidaw, Myanmar. Now here's another megaproject that made it as a top gear. This isn't just any faraway airport, this is Myanmar's new capital, which was only built from scratch. In 2002, Myanmar's former military authorities quietly began constructing a new capital. It is really rare for a country's capital to be moved, although several countries have done so in the past, including Brazil, Egypt, and Pakistan. Myanmar's leaders announced their decision to the public in November of 2005, but they kept the name of the future capital a secret. The name was only made public after 4 months. It was named Naypyidaw, which literally means King's Residence. The causes for this sudden capital movement were unclear. Some speculated that the military leadership was afraid of a maritime invasion, while others suspected that the decision was made on the advice of astrologers. However, much of it had to do with Yangon, Myanmar's former capital. Yangon is home to 7 million people. The city's infrastructure is considered to be near capacity, and its population is expected to grow even further by 2050. Additionally, during British government, the seaside city was selected as the capital to benefit the British Navy. As a result, Myanmar's decision to relocate its capital to a more central position made sense. The new project was completed quickly, and successive governments have continued to pour money into it to this day. Naypyidaw now appears to have everything to attract visitors. A 20-lane highway, over 100 luxury hotels divided into 3 hotel districts, golf courses, museums, and even a 99-meter tall replica of the Yangon landmark. However, one crucial component is still missing: the population. The new capital has a population of less than 1 million people, the majority of whom live in the suburbs that existed before the city was designated as the capital. But why isn't anyone interested in living there? The majority of the population is hesitant to make the city their permanent home due to a persistent gap in health facilities, a shortage of excellent educational institutes, and economic opportunities. As a result, the city often gives the impression of being deserted, and it is commonly referred to as a ghost town. The magnificent 20-lane roadway is almost free of traffic. Congestion is unheard of, and a single car is occasionally found drifting along the colossal road. The city offers an airport with a capacity of 3.5 million passengers per year, yet hardly a dozen people use it on a busy day. On weekends, only professional people attend the shopping malls, while hotel lobbies are largely vacant. Despite its seeming isolation, the royal capital has a silver lining. Naypyidaw is designed as a future metropolis, and with its rapidly growing population, it still has time to reclaim itself. At present, it is undoubtedly the oddest capital in the world, and a large portion of the people find it very useless. For number 2, Forest City in Malaysia. We already discussed an apparent ghost city, and the next project on our agenda is a bright, futuristic, smart metropolis built on reclaimed ground on 4 artificial islands and centered on an artificial forest ecosystem. Forest City's position makes it a good bet for investors looking to profit from its proximity to Singapore, an independent city-state. Singapore maintains a booming economy and the world's second busiest port. The second link bridge has already connected Forest City and Singapore, reducing the trip between the two cities to just 20 minutes. Forest City will have its own customs facility, letting people easily travel to and from Singapore. Many green improvements are said to be integrated into the design. Buildings in Forest City will also have green rooftops and vertical gardens, giving the illusion of being in the forest. The lower layer of the city streets will be for traffic and parking spaces, while the upper layer will be for parks, sports facilities, and transportation hubs. One of the 4 projected islands, with 50 apartment units, golf courses, swimming pools, and beach resorts on board, is nearing its end. This enormous undertaking, however, is not without its challenges. Several of these economic and political roadblocks have already slowed its progress. The project is mostly sponsored by China, and for the first few years of its construction, Chinese citizens had basically free access to the city. As a result, wealthy Chinese investors flocked to Forest City, unable to afford the skyrocketing rates of houses in their own nation. By 2019, Chinese property owners accounted for 80% of all property owners. Even the street signs were written in Mandarin, and a few new schools in the neighborhood offered Mandarin classes. Malaysians simply cannot afford to acquire these apartments since property prices are set exclusively for the Chinese market. The surge of Chinese investors prompted a huge outrage from project opponents. It's been dubbed as a new form of colonialism. Following a change of government, Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad enacted a law prohibiting foreigners from holding property in the Forest City. The pandemic and subsequent global travel prohibitions were the next big losses. Due to Malaysia's movement control order, no investors were allowed to enter the country. Due to the uncertainty, many existing investors withdrew from the project. So by the beginning of 2020, fewer than 500 people were actually living in the residential buildings, which isn't much considering Forest City is supposed to accommodate 700,000 people. Since the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, the project has been incurring instability, with some salespeople stating that fewer than 10 homes have been sold at Forest City. Furthermore, Country Garden has laid off around 1,000 Malaysian workers in the last year, which indicates the project's massive decline. Forest City was perhaps too idealistic to begin with, too futuristic to completely realize, and too politically challenging to succeed in the near future. Forest City, despite the billions invested, appears to be an inactive megaproject at this time. Before we reveal the number 1 most useless megaproject, here's a rundown of the most useless megaprojects so far. At number 5, Interstate H3 in Hawaii. Number 4 was Ciudad Real Central Airport in Spain. Third on the list was Naypyidaw in Myanmar. And number 2 went to Forest City in Malaysia. And the number 1 most useless megaproject? The Yucca Mountain Nuclear Waste Repository. We'll wrap up this list with a megaproject that was designed in response to a pressing worldwide problem. Nuclear waste isn't as well publicized as comparable to other environmental issues. Unfortunately, if not properly preserved, it has the potential to be more lethal than anything seen after the dawn of humanity. Nuclear waste is currently contained above ground near the power stations from where it originated. The scientific community, on the other hand, agrees that dumping this dangerous material deep underground is the safest and most lasting solution. The US government set out in the 1980s to find a long-term solution to the expanding garbage problem. Yucca Mountain in Nevada was chosen as the best viable choice in 1987. It was closest to the most frequently used nuclear testing site in the US, and far from any major population areas. The goal was to dump rubbish from all around the country in a tunnel complex that was going to be built. Yucca Mountain is made out of volcanic ash that originated millions of years ago. In addition to its remote position, the Yucca Mountain is able to absorb any radioactive waste without collapsing or cracking as a result of this. On paper, Yucca Mountain seemed ideal for a repository, but Nevadans were having none of it. There are approximately 100 operational and closed nuclear reactor facilities in the United States, but none in Nevada. As a result, members of the Congress and the general public strongly oppose the idea of being the country's sole nuclear waste disposal site. Additionally, the official hydrological and geological surveys of the Yucca Mountain have been questioned. Opponents said that the location was unfit for a repository because it could contaminate a nearby water source. Native Americans who have lived in the area for a millennia used the water source, which flows into Amargosa Valley. Despite the resistance, the project was approved in 2002 and building was resumed by the Department of Energy. Nevada's opposition, on the other hand, only got stronger. They said that frequent exposures when traveling will victimize Nevada citizens and have an adverse effect on tourism growth. According to the opponents, Nevada was chosen for the repository because of its smaller population and congressional representation. The project had grown highly politicized by the time Barack Obama took office, and the Obama administration found it impractical in 2010 and stopped supporting it. A federal judge ordered its resume 3 years later, but there has been minimal development ever since. The Biden administration has said unequivocally that Yucca Mountain is no longer in the country's plans. After 4 decades, Nevada appears to have won the battle. The Yucca Mountain project has been the subject of decades of planning, legal battles, and over $17 billion in funding. Yet it has never been used, and it continues to be a nonsense megaproject. So, what are your opinions on these massive projects? Are they really useless to you? Or do you believe that any of these will still be useful in the long run? Please leave us a comment to let us know what you think. If you enjoy this video, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to tap the bell to get notified of our latest uploads. For more insightful videos like this, subscribing to the channel is the best way to go. Once again, from the high-end stories of today, this is Modern Luxury. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you in our next video.